there's NFL stadiums that have the Halo boards now, and every MLS stadium's got a big, fancy new video board. And so I think for us, it wasn't just catching up. It was trying to set the new standard and go a little bit further and do a little bit more. And I think we've done a lot of that, if not all of it.
Hello and welcome to the Daktronics Experience podcast. We are here today at Children's Mercy Park, home of Sporting Kansas City. Here with Matt Anderson. We also have Josh and Blake with the Sporting KC team here. So to start off, before we dig into everything people can see in the background here, let's start with Blake here and give us a quick intro of yourself and kind of how you got to where you're at with the team.
Yeah, so I'm Blake McFarland. I'm our director of match experience. I actually started as an intern at Sporting Kansas City in 2012, working on the video board then, and then got a full-time job in 2017, overseeing our match presentation, kind of developed over time. And then this offseason with our upgrades to the lights and the video boards, it just kind of became its own world, match experience. I've been doing that really since 2017, but with a full 110% focus since January of this year.
Yeah. And interning with the team then, what kind of made you go that way? Have you always been interested in sports and wanted to be a part of that kind of thing? Or
Yeah, I'm originally from a small town in Southwest Kansas. Okay. So my life goal from 1 till, let's call it 13, was to play basketball for the University of Kansas, and then just kind of deal with it after that. Did not make the basketball team in 8th grade, so I decided that hey, why not? Instead of playing sports professionally, why don't we, work in sports? Mm-hmm. So I did that. I had a high school program that did a lot of video editing and production, and I did pretty well at that. And just kind of sent Sporting an email. And I was like, hey, I'd be down for an internship if you guys need anybody, and it went from there.
Nice. We'll throw a review then, Josh. Kind of, what is your title here, and then how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, so I'm the Vice President of Operations and the General Manager of Children's Mercy Park, where we're sitting here today. I started in this position in 2017 as well, kind of a tag team effort between you and I, starting about the same time, actually, that season. So my past, I went to a small school in Indianola, Iowa, Simpson College, majored in sports management, marketing there. Finished my 4-year undergraduate degree, was kind of looking for opportunities in the sports world. I, too, knew I wasn't going to become a professional athlete, so I was looking for other avenues to engage in sports. It was something that was a super big passion of mine as a kid and growing up and through high school, et cetera. So applied to a couple jobs, ended up deciding to go to graduate school at Kansas State University. Spent 2 years at K-State in the athletics department, working in facilities and operations, event management, similar work in a similar world to what I do here today. Kind of fast forward, I move out to the Bay Area in California in 2013, 14. Start working with the University of California, Berkeley, Cal, in their event management department. Spent a couple years there. Went down to San Jose State University, worked as a director of facilities and events for the athletic department there. Cal brought me back to campus 2 years later, and I finished my tenure up there in the Bay Area before coming out here to Sporting Kansas City in 2017. Started as the director of stadium operations, and then I've been here now going on my 7th or 8th season, I guess now. Was elevated to the role as vice president in 2021, and have enjoyed it here. And I've seen the evolution and just the progress that Major League Soccer and Sporting Kansas City and everything else has happened across the board here now for some time. And I'm excited to be here and excited to chat more today.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm kind of curious, you mentioned you've been here and seen the evolution, and you've got a great venue here. Can you tell us kind of what's it look like on match day, and what's the vision behind what you're doing on match day?
I think kind of one of our big just a testament to how we think about our fan experience, right? Everything that we do from the lens of fan experience. What is that guest going to experience? How are they? It can be no small, no big. It doesn't matter necessarily what we're evaluating, what we're looking to do. at the end of the day, we just want to provide the best experience that we can for our fans. And so we talk about this evolution. We didn't have LED lights, and we didn't have gobos, and we didn't have very fantastic video displays that we do now. And so I remember when I first started here, we consistently would have issues being able to deliver Blake and his team's show. And now fast forward, we've been able to not only upkeep the stadium and provide new opportunities and new experiences for fans, but the other thing that's kind of pushed or advanced the ball here for us is the growth of Major League Soccer and the involvement of new clubs, new stadiums across the league. And so, Children's Mercy Park was built specifically as a soccer-specific stadium. It was kind of the first of its kind to be really dedicated and built in this sort of fashion. And so, it's an honor for me to come in and be able to operate a place like this that has very high expectations, wants to deliver a very high fan experience. And at the end of the day, we want to continue to push the envelope for Major League Soccer. We want to be, in the top of these clubs that have, the nicest fan experience, the nicest stadium experience in general. And, that's kind of what keeps me going here is just every day's, it's always a new day.
And just for reference, when was the stadium built?
We opened in 2011.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So we're about 13 years into the stadium, and our goal around here is to make this place look brand new every day.
Yeah.
So that's why things like video displays and things like that obviously elevate that experience and just provide that opportunity for our fans.
I said, never being here before, I would not have guessed that it was that, because it does look very new. It even has the new smell still as you come in here and everything too. Then maybe kind of Blake, I'm kind of curious then when it comes to match day or not, just the two of you responsibilities, kind of how do you work with each other based on your roles and responsibilities when it comes up?
Yeah, my role at the end of the day is to create the experience for our fans once they get into the stadium. And one word that we use a lot is immersive. We want people to really feel like they've, getting immersed into our brand, getting immersed into the product that we have, which is our stadium experience. So for the most part, my world, we're worried about what goes on the LED displays and the lights and the music and the fireworks and when and how we're going to play all of that. And then, within MLS, there's certain times you can do things and certain times you can't. So a lot of that's working with Josh on his team going, hey, good example is coming up here. We've got a Canadian team playing in our next match. So that kind of changes the protocol a little bit. So we work on that. But then also there's some larger scale projects, we mentioned the LED boards. That's something that obviously crosses over into both of our world. Josh is, kind of his team made it all happen, and I'm on more of the hey, we've got this brand new video board, make it look really cool type of side, yeah. And then when there's things that come up, and it's hey, what do you think about this, or how do we do this, or we have a post-match fireworks show, and this year that's going to be totally different with our displays, our lights, everything we do on that one. But then there's always well, how do people get on the field? Where do they park? How do we do all of that? So we cross over a lot. It's been a fun ride for the 7 years we've been together, and I applaud Josh for putting up with me through all of that, because I'm sure it's not always been the most fun.
I used to have a lot more hair back then, too.
Yeah. So it's kind of the merger of how do things work and what's the experience we want. And that's kind of where we touch.
And thinking of, with how, I don't like to say how old the facility is, because then that makes it seem like it's old, but with all the upgrades then, even for the LED displays, maybe when did that thought first occur in the organization's head, right? Was there something going on and you're all right, now we know we need to do this, and kind of what was the process like that very early on?
Yeah, it really was kind of the first conceptualization of this project came in 2019. Okay. And we had this north display, this south display. We had worked on not only the funding mechanisms to make this thing happen, we had gone through the project management piece of this, what we wanted to elevate our boards to. And so then we just talked about this a little bit ago, but 2020 COVID happened. Yep. And so it really kind of hit pause for us to be able to finish the entire project that we had hoped to do back in 2020 is really when we had wanted to do that. So we were able to replace the north board at that time, and it's always been something that we've been wanting to do now for a couple of years. But then actually being able this last off season to be able to take care of the LED ribbon board, take care of this main centerpiece display on the south side here, and as well as add an additional supplemental board over by our Budweiser Brewhouse corner. That's been in the works. It's been a conversation for a few years. Glad we were able to finally get it done. We were operating, these old boards. And just at that point where, lifetime, these are now 10, 12 years old technologies. So now we've got the brand new bells and whistles, and Blake's showing them off every Saturday night. I tell you what.
And the other thing I'd add too is, us as an organization, we aren't satisfied with where we're at. We want to elevate everything we're doing. And I think that the video boards are a great example where like there wasn't anything like super wrong with what we had.
Yeah.
It just wasn't to the standard we wanted. A phrase that Josh hears a lot and I hear a lot, he probably says it more than I do, is, like good enough isn't enough. And we wanted to push things forward. And as you look around at other stadiums, there's NFL stadiums that have the Halo boards now, and every MLS stadium's got a big, fancy new video board. And so I think for us, it wasn't just catching up. It was trying to set the new standard and go a little bit further and do a little bit more. And I think we've done a lot of that, if not all of it. And that was, a part of it. Obviously, Josh has the insight of like how the sausage should get made, but directionally speaking, that's also something that we wanted to take care of. And that's directionally where we go as an organization.
Yeah, with the size of the board and the architecture, it kind of matches that roof. Was there a lot of thought of, okay, we're looking at these other stadiums and seeing how they're doing things and what we want to do to set that new standard? Or was it, this is kind of the idea we have for this refresh? Or how did that go?
Like the original, kind of architecture and some of the themes that came through the architecture and the build of the stadium was, kind of as you look around our roof line, there's no right angles. It was really try to create this almost like a building in motion, kind of going around the roof. And so you kind of see that on the interior through the roof line, but then if you go outside the stadium and even look at, the perimeter, it kind of even has that same flow. And it's just like the stadium's in motion, much like the game of soccer, it's in constant motion, right? And so the video board, we knew that we wanted to match our roof line. We knew we didn't want to deviate too far from what we had, but we also knew that we had an opportunity here. The previous board, we had video as well as static displays, sponsor ads within that board. Why not maximize that opportunity? Let's go full video. And then as we kind of worked through this process, an idea that came to mind was, and this is something that you don't see all too often, but we actually have a side wrap on the south board now that you can actually see from the concourse as you're entering the stadium. Yeah. And so Blake and his team can put up different types of programming. Maybe we're doing maybe it's just statistics. Maybe it's a concessions offer that we're able to hit fans as they're entering the stadium. It's right there in front of their faces, like, boom, here you go. But that was just like a subtle thing that we added, but it's been hugely impactful. And so that piece, the LED board, the ribbon board on the other side, it's taller, there's a lot more footprint for us to be able to put partner logos and that sort of thing up and give them, their time within our script. And then on this corner board over here, you can probably talk a little bit more about how you guys use that. But I think it's just been an awesome addition to the stadium experience. And I notice, at first we weren't real sure that we wanted to do it, but now kind of after we've done it, like no brainer, glad we did that. Huge elevation to the match day experience.
Yeah, it's a lot closer to the field than the other boards. It's also a different aspect ratio. It's a lot closer to 16:9 than the other ones, which prevents some really interesting opportunities for us to send out content and programming. But, the other great thing about the corner board is, to Josh's point, it just kind of has a different vibe to it at the end of the day. A lot of times it rotates through advertisements, which is really close to the field. So it's kind of an additional field TV visible inventory for us, which is obviously huge for partners. We also put out replays on it. So, now you're able to have a replay in 3 different areas of the stadium. So it's not, you're not kind of having to look one direction or the other. It's right there. It also is a great, when we do like our intro video and whatnot, having it in 3 places all in sync is really cool. We haven't really played around with it too much, but kind of how every display works. They all, get fed content differently. So, in theory, you could have a goal on the north board, a reaction from the goal on the corner board, and, the ball going in the net slow-mo on the south board, because they're not all necessarily having to play the exact same thing. They're just playing 3 files at once.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think it looks really cool. And then, the other side of it is, it's, we're always going to be better off when we have a 16 by 9 board that's that close to the field to be able to push out information. It's something that we don't have with 2 very abstract looking boards, and it kind of helps even things out for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of curious about when we first came here and started looking at the boards too, was that, some places, maybe if you think of end zone type displays, usually mirror each other, right?
Yeah.
A lot. But like you said, when you have one with a unique shape as that one and then a different size, you are essentially running 2 different productions even at that time, right? Because you're saying it's different aspect ratio, different content and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the fun part of all of this is that you have that customization to be able to do all of it. The challenging part is that, for partners, for internal stakeholders, like, there's not much that connects from one board to the other.
Just because it's so different in the layout.
They might be like 100 pixels off, but that 100 pixels is gonna make a difference on how you display it. So it gives us more inventory. I think we're at it's like 28 sizes or something for all of our displays.
Okay.
Which is pretty high. So it's kind of the content guide is something you have to really read through and digest it. So we can put up different ads on the south board than the north board and the corner board. The nice thing is that all of our LED displays transition at the exact same time. So field to upper LED, the video boards, IPTV, all that stuff is transitioning at the same time, so you don't have kind of like a pinging effect where like one thing transitions and then the next.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's still immersive, like you said earlier, right? You're still trying.
You just don't want people to notice it, right? Like you want the ads to change, but you don't want people to just like eyes to go over there necessarily when they do that. So it's great to do all of that stuff. It looks great when we have it running on a match day and everything is ready to go. And there's the different sizes make it a different challenge, but with every challenge is opportunity. So now we can put more things elsewhere. To your point of like them being like the displays being kind of like gang together, like we can do that, but we also have the ability to be like, we don't want to do that right now. And so we can do something different, which allows us a lot more creativity and freedom of, just because this is up here doesn't mean it has to be over there. Just because we want to do this doesn't mean we have to do that.
I gotcha.
Cool. I want to throw out just the sizes. We've mentioned each board a little bit. So the main video board goes from 20 feet high on the left side to 35 feet high on the right side, and it's 126 feet wide. So we're talking approximates here to get the size of what's over there. And then that corner display is about 14 and a half feet high by 24 feet wide. And then the ribbon is 5 feet high by 317 feet wide. So quite a bit of real estate there for, like you said, to mix and match that content. And I'm sure you have fun figuring out how to get content to look great and match that angle while you're creating and thinking of how you want to craft that immersive experience. So seeing all this come together, how was the installation like from your side of things? How did the installation go to get this all ready for this season?
That's great question. And I would just say, first of all, we had this was one of many projects that we had planned this offseason. Firstly, and the challenging part with Major League Soccer and just in general our schedule going into last offseason was, we had a multitude of projects that we were looking at doing. Video boards is one of them. We had we have this pitch heating system within the field itself, so we had to do some repairs and some maintenance to that system. The LED lights that we've discussed, that was another part of that project. In between some other smaller ones as well. But the cadence of this was probably the most challenging thing in my world to figure out was how are we going to accomplish all of these things? And it kind of amounted to less than 75 days when it was all said and done. Huh. Now, the video displays particularly had about 42 days of project time. That included demo and an install and then programming and testing and all that stuff as well. So, the Daktronics team's always been great. It's amazing how quickly that they can move and get stuff installed and working and get it tested and everything. We felt very confident going to our home opener. So it was a challenging construction schedule over the off season to begin with. You add in the weather that we get here in Kansas City. Some of these challenges, just hiccups that we have along the way, just with any other general construction project, you're going to have things come up, that sort of thing through and through. But I think we finished the entire install like mid-February on this one. Just had a few punch list items to come back and fix at the end of it, but everything was operable, and we rocked an awesome show on. I can't remember it seems like it was
March
so long
2nd.
ago, March 2nd now, an awesome home opener. But, outside of just the challenging construction schedule, the project itself and everything else was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe how is it from your perspective? Because you had to kind of get content and everything ready to run for that show. How would that go?
Yeah, without being able to see it on the board, it's a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, and there was a lot of nuances to it. You talk about the angle on the roof. Nobody really edits video on a slant, really. So
Right.
I've been curious about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just we make a mask. It's just a layer that goes on the top of your project, and you turn it off when you export it, but it kind of shows you where things fall off and won't fall off. And then the other side of it is that we can put things on the face of the south video board, so the flat part, and then we can also do stuff that wraps around on the corner. So even that's a little bit of it's really cool at the end of the day. It's not even really that much of a challenge because how many teams have a video board that wraps? So when you have our starting 11 is a good example. It has a very distinctive Argyle pattern in it. Well, when we do that full board, initially the Argyle was warping around the corner because it's just where it was placed on the composition. So you slide that over a little bit, and you kind of want certain things to tail around it. It's really cool. It's like having at the end of the day, it's kind of like curved TVs are cool.
Right.
It's just cool to see one. Maybe you don't own one, but they're when you see it, you're like, that's really sweet. And so we kind of have a little bit of that going on with us. So yeah, it was challenging. And the other side of it is in years past, we would make one video file that would play for both displays, and it wasn't really too difficult. Now we have basically 5 video files for everything we want to do, because the corner board, everything's going to look different because it's more like your traditional TV, and then the north board is a little bit more narrow than the south board, and then the south board's got its whole deal, and then we got in new upper LEDs. So those, none of that stuff kind of carried over from the years past, and our field boards did stay, so that worked. And then you have the whole the wrap, it's not really typical for an outdoor stadium. It's not really typical for a video board to have a display that wraps around the corner in a basically 45-degree angle. So it's not really something that you kind of have to think about where you're at in the stadium and where people would be at, because we're sitting here right now, we probably can't really see much of what's going on it, but as you move closer towards the control room, you're going to see that board more and more. So it's really it's not really 2 canvases, it's 1 canvas at the end of the day, but how we pick and place stuff there was different. And that was something that just candidly we flew blind. It was I don't know. We'll see it once we power this thing up. We'll kind of figure it out as we go, and we'll kind of crawl and walk, and then here pretty soon we're going to be running on this thing.
Nice.
And that's what I was curious about too. Is we'll find out more tomorrow night about how it's all treated in different looks. But so you're watching it get built, right? And you're waiting, looking at mock-ups or renderings and stuff. What was it like when they first were all right, now you can turn on and start putting content on it? What was that like? Was it pretty hectic at first, or were you just you were chomping at the bit already and ready to dive in?
Definitely chomping at the bit. I mean, especially where we're at in the year, there's only so many hours in the day, and you got to get stuff done. So yeah, it was any day that I could get in there and turn the thing on and get going was much needed and appreciated. So no, it was a lot of fun. And as you look at it, you look at it and you're like, I think I understand this. And then you see it in, actuality, and you're like, oh, okay. This is a little different than what I thought.
Sizes may vary. I've heard people say they do renderings and they didn't realize, that's actually 2 feet is how big the digit is.
Yeah, there's scale of it, oh, we think this would look good here, but what looks good in Photoshop on a mock-up doesn't always translate over. So there was that. I think the other side of it was, we put the trim piece in, and that took a little bit of the the pixels away, but that wasn't a problem. It was just oh, okay, well, now we know that everything's 50 less pixels or whatever it turned out to be. So there's a little bit of that, a little bit of just trial and error, and hey, let's throw this thing up there. And do all of that, and you get all the displays in sync, and then we have the added layer of field boards and upper LEDs that also we need them to be in sync for specific moments, and then the LED lights and fireworks, and getting everything kind of all in one. Really, the single button push for us is pretty incredible.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything that you're like, okay, I've seen this and I kind of want to try this, or without giving away the secret sauce, is there anything unique you're doing other than realizing you don't have to put the same thing on each of those displays, or anything new you're doing with tying the boards together for that immersive experience?
Yeah, I think, eventually here soon we'll get to a point where you'll be able to play off of all three boards. Like we kind of talked about it, like, it could be in the north video board, like the ball goes in the net, the south video board is the crowd reaction, or the corner video board is the crowd reaction, and then the south, our players' reaction. Well, that's really, really cool. We got to think about it because, where you are watching it in the stadium, any one given person, it's going to be a different sequence in your head. If you're sitting on the side with the press box, like it makes sense. It's left to right. If you're sitting on the opposite side, you're like, it's right to left. That's atypical of how I would normally watch video. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of that wrap as well. We've had the score bug up on there a lot. We've used some other content on there, but I think for our next coming matches, it might be something where we can kind of push the envelope a little bit more. Is that a great spot for us to display who's on the field for both teams? Is that a great spot for us to display those concessions promos, or is it a great time to prompt the fans or out of town scores? We're kind of figuring that all out as we go here, and it's just all it's all fun. And the nice thing is that Josh doesn't get too upset when I am here when I'm here late at night playing with the lights and the video boards, and somewhat intentionally breaking it, somewhat unintentionally breaking things to kind of see how it all works. But that's also an added benefit of what we have here. We aren't a tenant, we own the place, so we can do that. I don't have to worry too often about if there's another event that needs the video boards, or I just have to adjust my time a little bit.
I kind of want to throw it to Josh then, thinking back too on that, maybe the debut of the home opener, right? The first time you used the display. How was that compared to maybe even last year when you didn't have it? Was it from both the fan side and maybe your sponsorship side? How was it?
I generally was impactful, right? I mean, out of the gate, it was impactful. We knew it was going to be impactful, obviously before March 2nd. Just the look of the stadium, the new bells and whistles tied in with all the other elements to our match presentation that we had put in through this project process in the off season. So we knew it was going to be impactful. I think you were kind of saying chomping at the bit to get going on content. I was chomping at the bit just to get that part of the project over, so I could be like, here you go, Blake, run with it. And so we got to that point. I think early on we were still trying to figure out the best way to use the new technology and the new boards, and we've adjusted. I think we probably adjust just about every other match. We're consistently trying to improve the experience incrementally every day, right? So you have it downloaded with your team on how things went. I have it downloaded with my team on how things went after every match. Him and I talk regularly, meet regularly. So it's important for us to always be aligned and on the same page, and then obviously share that feedback that we're getting back and forth between our teams to see if there's any other adjustments that we can make. And some of it might be stuff that I need to do and my team needs to do, and some of it might be in Blake's world. But yeah, it was impactful. I think we still didn't have, because of the tight project schedule, there were still some things that were coming project-wise that weren't done by March 2nd that we knew were going to get rolled out later into the month of March and that sort of thing. So it was impactful, yes, for the fans to see all the new displays and that sort of thing. But then as we advanced through March and then into April, we were continuing to tease different things that were still to come. Yeah. And really that just came down to a matter of, again, that off season's so short. We've only really got about 75 days to fit in, very, very intense and important projects. So, we just kind of kept that rolling and then continue to elevate and continue to enhance, I think, every match day at this point. And I feel like you're probably fairly comfortable with where we are on the boards at this point. But.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think to your original question of how did fans react to it on match one? I think at the end of the day, we can tell them hey, the board is 20 feet wider and 10 feet taller, and they don't really quite get that until you're sitting in the stadium and you're like, wow, this thing's a lot bigger. It's a lot, a lot more crisp. It looks different. It operates different. I think even the corner board was one, like, we could tell every one of our fans, like, hey, there's going to be basically a 16:9 board in the corner board. It's going to be great for you. And it's like, we've never had that. We don't know what we're going to experience here. So there's a lot of that, to Josh's point, like, I think this project for me in my world, it's one that's never going to really be done at the end of the day, right? It's always going to have something changing. There's always going to be an idea coming from somewhere that, most of the time it's like, we can give it a shot. Like, let's see here.
Let's try it.
Let's see if it works. Let's see if we like it. Run it through the system there. And then if it's still a good idea and it's still something that's going to add to the experience, then let's figure out how to debut it. A lot of it was just kind of, trial by error, but I would say it was kind of like intentional trial by error.
I do remember, we'd gotten the structure erected for the new south board, the main centerpiece board. And, panels actually started going in, cabinets started going in. And, I remember standing back a little bit back from the field because prior to that I think we gained about 30% more video and just size because prior to that we had the static ad panels within it. And so, the video was, the structure was mostly the same size, but the video was much smaller. And then we stepped back and kind of look at it, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this thing's impressive. So it was a little bit, I don't think we quite understood that when we were talking through it, because at the end of the day, like, the structure didn't necessarily change, but once we went full video on that, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is.
Yeah. I mean, even we did the pixel math on it just to kind of like wrap our brains around it. And where we displayed the game during the game in soccer was X amount of pixels. That the board end to end last year is the same size of what now we can display the game on, right? So like, just from that perspective,
you
of
were
like
full screen the whole time, pretty much is what
well,
it would have been.
If you think about, like, our going full board for the game is not really conducive to a game because it's going to be center cut. But now we can basically put almost a 16:9 in there, just a little bit top left cut that is bigger pixel wise than our old board.
The whole board entirely.
So really for fans, like, they're getting 2 times the ability to see the game live on the south board. Then you add in a corner board that's going to show you replays as well. So that's a third, opportunity if you count in the north there as well. And that one didn't change too much in size, but just kind of how you lay it out, it's a little bit different. But, it's a lot bigger. And it's one of those things where there's small things that you're like, the game, like, watching the game on the video board will be easier. It'll be clearer and much larger. That's an easy win for everyone.
Yeah. And how does that kind of maybe spill over? We've been talking about a lot of in-bowl things that people will see with these displays. How does that kind of spill over into these club spaces? I know you have a couple displays of ours that are narrow pixel pitch, we like to call them, in 2 club spaces. Do you kind of do some of the things you're doing on some of those boards in those spaces as well, or how do you plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, everything that goes on the video board essentially gets sent back to all those displays. So, you could be in the field club, or the UMB field club, and you think, oh, it's 7:30. Think I should probably get going to my seats, and then all of a sudden the intro video is playing, and it's playing in the aspect ratio that you would want for that board. It's not got, you see a lot of other venues, they put like the bars on the top and bottom, so it's just like one source being sent out. Ours, like, everything's meant to pixel. From the TVs to the LED board and the UMB Field Club, the LED board and the Budweiser Brew House, like, both of those, like, that video is designed for that space. So that helps the experience a lot. It doesn't, you don't see things squished down. You don't see things like, hey, what's going on here? This is like the most cinematic bars ever, right? To make it fit.
Letterbox, widescreen.
Yeah, you're like, what's going on
it's
here?
Cinematic,
But now it's all meant to be there. It's kind of it's a takeover everywhere.
Sure.
And the same thing for goals. That's one thing that in soccer, you hear the crowd pop, we shoot off fireworks, everyone's really excited. In hockey, they send off the alarm or whatever, and we don't really have that. But you could be in a suite on our 4th floor or 5th floor. You could be at a concourse TV, and you're going to see you're going to see goal pop up, exactly what you see on the boards. You're going to hear the audio. You're going to hear the fireworks, and everything's in sync and tied no matter where you're at. So there's no delays, there's none of that. It's all tied together.
I think that's the kind of time maybe to you then, Josh, about that, right? Is I know lots of times we hear things like you want to make sure the out of seat experience is good because you do want to encourage some amount of getting up, walking around, and socializing, but you want people to still be in their seats to make noise. So kind of how does that factor into how you look at the building in general and these club spaces?
Yeah, it's at the end of the day that fan experience, right? And those are pivotal moments of the match that we don't want people to miss out on. So, and it's really kind of a key goal of ours is no matter where you are, even on the concourse restroom, there's TVs, right? So you can be anywhere, and once a impactful moment happens, and maybe it's a goal, like you're going to be hit. You're going to know it, right? We talked a bit about these interior displays. So outside of like the 17 to 20 Major League Soccer matches we host every year, we also host about 300 private events every year. So those displays are used every day, just about downstairs in our field club, across the other side of the stadium in our Budweiser Brew House. We're consistently using those for, a client might come in that has a presentation, whatever AV needs they might have, but those displays worked out perfectly for those things. And so they get probably more use than the main boards out bowl side. But, we do stuff, all the time with these boards that really even fall outside of Major League Soccer and kind of what we're here to do for Sporting Kansas City. But, we have these other lines of business that have these needs, and it works out great for us.
Extra revenue stream.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not a terrible thing to hear, but
you got the right spaces for it. Might as well maximize that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm kind of curious, just from obviously us being in a mainly LED industry, is just what made you go with LED in those spaces? Because I know we're seeing a shift of things maybe go from what used to be projectors or some LCD walls even, but kind of why LED in a couple of those spaces?
We previously had projectors everywhere. The projectors that we had were, 2011s when the stadium was open. They're a decade old, kind of end of life type kind of situation. Technology's not great. The difference in the display between what we have now and what we previously had, it's just night and day difference. And the other part too is we wanted those displays to be able to talk to the main control room. So this is a very, very seamless experience. And even though it's very complicated, a touch of a button, if it's done right, we can do a lot of really, really cool things. And so we moved to that LED board technology in these spaces. I think that's going to be the path that we'll continue to go through as we continue to evolve and enhance and change out different club spaces and that sort of thing. It's just the user ability. I have an AV manager that's awesome at his job. These are a lot easier for him to operate and use versus the old style projectors that we used to have. So we still have a few projectors in the building. So hope to sunset those here in the near future. But it's a no brainer in my opinion.
And the other side of it too is we play in the summer months a lot. So when we're kicking off at 7:40, we're still an hour till sunset. And so the UMB Field Club, Budweiser Brew House, a lot of times, natural light will come in, right? And that can wash out a projector. So, that kind of is a bad experience for people when you're trying to watch whatever MLS games beforehand or whatever major sports event it is on the projectors. Like they're getting washed out a little bit.
You have no idea what the score is.
Yeah, you're just
keeping involved.
Can somebody turn the sun down, please? But with the LED wall, the LED wall is like, you're good. It looks a lot better. And I think there's some other advantages to it. You can divide up the content a lot easier, so we can go to do a quad box on them if we need to. So it's really cool, and I just think that at the end of the day, like to Josh's point, that's the way things are going because it just looks better. And maybe when the stadium opened, the pixel pitch wouldn't quite match. You'd have to be so far away to see it. But now when you can do as low as you guys can go, which I'm sure is even lower than what we think, you can be it's basically working like a TV. It's a massive TV that you have a lot of control of. So that's great.
And it ties into everything, like you said, it helps with that immersive experience. And I think you've said it probably 4 times already. It's all around that fan experience that you're trying to build it around. So with all of that we've talked about, if there's somebody else going through a similar renovation or they want to refresh or they're getting something brand new, any advice you give them from either the organizing the construction side of things or even from the content preparation side of things?
Yeah, I think one thing that we did that was really impactful is, I've been here a long time. I've basically worked on the video board all but 1 year that we've been here in the stadium. And the biggest challenge we had that I think was the biggest benefit was basically, hit and select all and delete on everything we've done in the past, and really rethinking it and really thinking about what are we like, where do you want people's eyes? Where do you want, how do you want them to experience it? Kind of, guide people along over there. And just because we've been doing something for 10 years doesn't mean we don't need to do it anymore. It doesn't mean that we don't need to change anything on it. It means that we need to evaluate if there is anything to go on that. And so when you basically, have to redo everything because nothing's going to be sized appropriately anymore, then that gives you that opportunity to really rethink everything you're doing. And I think when you rethink it, maybe it's not a totally brand new idea. You're not reinventing the wheel, but maybe you're doing something that's just going to enhance that wheel a little bit, or doing something that's just going to kind of make you 1% better, cleaner, new. I think that's all what we wanted to do is basically, just like Josh did physically with the video boards, like take them all down to the studs, rebuild it, and see where we end up.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, we had a great template to start with, right? I mean, we obviously elevated into some really cool things, but we had a great template to start with from the design and the construction of the stadium from 2011 when it was first opened. So, for me, I'm big on talking to counterparts around in the industry. So I like to make phone calls to anybody who has Daktronics displays. Hey, how'd it go? What did you guys see? Did you guys do anything kind of new or cool that you think might be worth us investigating or looking into? So I'm big on that, having a lot of context around these decisions that are made. And then I think, like we're a really tight group between Blake's team, my team, our leadership. We had a consistent, constant conversation, and up until 2020 when COVID happened, I mean that was we were pushing this ball forward. So, and then we got set back, but we kept the conversation fresh. We kept kind of pushing things along, just seeing what juice we could squeeze out of whatever lemon we had to keep advancing the ball. And so I think those regular meetings, those regular phone calls, being willing to just be open, transparent, work through conflict. If it's something that's Blake's needing, but we're not technically quite able to provide, it's having that kind of solutions focused mentality that I think is how I carry myself and working with this guy every day. You have to. He brings me a lot of issues, but
I was just gonna say, I was surprised you didn't say there's some idea that Blake has that we can't operationally do.
I'm the my MO as an operations guy is like we get kind of a bad rap. We're like the no fun group, right? The answer is no, we can't do that. No, I take a little bit of different approach. I've seen some really cool things done. I'm like, hey, on the cusp, doesn't sound like a great idea, but let's hash this out. Let's work through it. Maybe we can find some common ground here for a solution that's going to deliver what you need, and it's also going to check the boxes I need to check to make sure that it's safe and these sorts of things. So, but it's good. Feasibility, yeah, feasibility.
That's kind of Justin. He's the PR guy, so a lot of times he gets mad if we don't say things exactly right. So he's always the bad guy for that. I have to sit
close to this guy.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I was curious about too. You had a lot of experience in colleges, right? Mm-hmm. And then coming into an MLS group, like what was that even like? Because colleges, right? Yeah. Multiple sports. I think you even mentioned, right, you're the tenant and owner of the same place, so this is your main thing, is Sporting KC. But coming from college side, you can have anywhere from 12 different sports coming here to kind of focus on one. What was that like?
I've enjoyed the transition for sure. When I was at University of California, Berkeley, for example, we had 36 varsity sports spread across.
I said 12, 36.
Spread across like 14 different venues. And all these venues were, a nice basketball arena or a football stadium or a volleyball arena, whatever that might look like. So none of them had a ton of infrastructure, technology, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But, working in that environment and coming here, it taught me a lot of things. I think the biggest of which is the political capital or the capital that you might have on a college campus can be diluted very quickly across 36 sports or a lot of different coaches. A lot of larger institutions have a lot of leadership, that sort of thing.
You got alums, you got booster groups.
Exactly. There's a lot of opinions that are involved in all this. And now it's the same in some ways here. Don't get me wrong, but being able to have full control over our experience and really having this shared fate between us on how we execute and how we deliver a match day, we have a lot more control over that. And I think that having that control over your own fate is a position that I'd rather work in every day. But I do miss the college athletics environment from time to time. I appreciated the amateurism that once was, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes, and just the industry shift in general with these these universities and these college teams. Potentially getting some more funding, get some more money, being able to invest into the facilities and that sort of thing. It's a different world for sure.
Yeah, and I would say as well, for us as an organization, we're experience driven. Our product is your experience in the stadium. That's what we're trying to sell. So that gives you a lot more ability to do things a little bit differently, because you're not as tied to, well, this is the way we've done it, or this is going to hurt this side of it. It's, at the end of the day, if it's a good experience in the stadium and at the stadium, then we're on the right path.
It's more of a focus, right? You
Yeah.
have a more point of focus for it.
Yeah, then it's the simplest way to put it is like, that's our product. That's what we're trying to sell. We don't sell wins and losses or draws. We sell the experience you have experiencing a win, loss, or a draw.
Yeah. Maybe along those lines, what's your favorite thing that you've kind of seen this year that you've implemented that you're maybe excited for us to see tomorrow night?
I think the LED lights and how they play with the boards has just been it's been a game changer for us. It's in Kansas City. I think a couple other teams have them. I think pretty soon all of them will. And I think that where we kind of separate ourselves is we aren't as dependent on waiting for something, or we don't have as many regulations, I guess, maybe from MLS, or maybe not as many of them that we are too keen on, falling to the in total letter of the law. But I think the lights are great, and how they can, bring things into the video boards. I think that when you see us go full board on stuff, and that you can see that wrap on it and how everything kind of plays together, it's just different. And I think it's different in all the right ways. And, we did a halftime light show, that really, it looked like a concert deal, right? We ran the first one. We were like, let's see how this thing works. Now we have more displays where instead of just, dimming everything down and leaving up a partner logo, now we can have, colors chase to the music and all of that, just really using those screens as an additional canvas. And that experience, I think, is something that we're going down the rabbit hole of what that can be and what that can look like. And we're probably only, couple feet
scratching the surface.
A couple feet into it, but here soon we're going to be way into it, and it's going to be awesome.
Right. The thought of being able to do even a halftime show was never a solution. It was never going to happen, until we had done all these things this offseason. So the halftime's an example, even post game, we can do certain things to elevate that fan experience. We have a fireworks show coming up June 29th, actually later this month or later next month. And I'm excited to see what this guy puts together for that. We have some awesome fireworks shows, but now that we've got new boards, new content displays, the lights, the gobos, and the best part is, like, this is now one button, push a button, and it's all sequential. It's all synced up, and it does it. Whereas for me, in my lens, how I look at it is, in the past, I had people on the roof to turn off lights. There was like 3 or 4 different steps.
It
to
looked
make
like
this
you were doing it
happen.
with one button, but you
yeah,
weren't.
well, it's definitely not as seamless as an experience as today. So it's from an improvement standpoint, just the efficiency that we have now to be able to do these things and make it turnkey and do them quickly is huge.
Yeah.
Sounds like we got to come back June 29th.
There we go.
And also next year, because they're only scratching the surface.
Yeah,
Right?
we're only
So we just
scratching
gotta
the
do
surface, yeah.
Podcast part 2 next year.
And everybody else that's listening should come check it out too. We're excited to see it tomorrow night and see what
very
you guys
excited.
have put together. We're looking forward to it, and just want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today and share everything about your stadium here.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.